Everyone who really cares about you wants you to flourish. And someone who is flourishing is full of vitality. And it's impossible for someone who is flourishing to hide it. There's a raw glow and energy that emanate from someone who is flourishing, and it is undeniable. And the thing about flourishing is you cannot do it alone, and you cannot do it for yourself. You can put yourself in situations where it is more likely to happen, but you cannot make it happen. Flourishing is beyond happiness. It is produced not only by a person's choices and actions, but also by a nurturing environment that is specifically designed to bring it about. Human flourishing is a beautiful thing. Most of us have experienced it at some point in our lives. Maybe you flourished in math in your teens, or at soccer in college, or in your third full-time job you ever had. The interesting thing is, you may have been struggling in all your other subjects, but in math, things just came together. You might have been struggling in every other area of your life, but at soccer or in that particular job, everything just seemed to click into place. What was different? What were you experiencing in those situations that was missing from other aspects of your life? Chances are you were uniquely supported, encouraged, challenged, and nurtured. It could have emanated from a teacher, coach, or manager, but it also could have been a study group, teammates, or co-workers. And it could have been a combination of any or all of these. The point is, flourishing requires an environment that is uniquely nurturing. It isn't something we can do for ourselves, but it is something we can contribute to in each other. A professional football player gets signed to a team straight out of college. Everyone who knows him is filled with great hope. In the NFL, he seems like a completely different player than he was in college. He misses plays, fumbles, and seems to be constantly in the wrong place at the wrong time. Everyone asks, well, what happened? And then he gets traded to another team after a few seasons and again seems to be a completely different player, but this time for the better. He's winning games and breaking records, and everyone asks, what happened? It could be many things, but what is most likely to have caused such radically different results? Environment. Flourishing requires an environment that is uniquely nurturing. Human flourishing, isn't that what we really want? For ourselves, for our children, for our friends, for our spouse? And don't men and women of goodwill want this for everyone, everywhere, even the people they don't know and will never meet? But what in society is set up with the specific aim of creating human flourishing? Does your primary relationship, your family, your social group, your church, your school, your workplace, your neighborhood provide an environment that is uniquely nurturing? For too many people, the answer is no. I wasn't flourishing at that time in my life. I knew that. But I was so focused on surviving that the idea of flourishing felt like an impossible fantasy. When you have been traumatized by life, it is natural and healthy to go through a period of intense healing and grieving. And while those processes will carry on for years, tapering off, there comes a time to return to the rigors of life. There comes a time to look to the horizon and set your course for the next phase of your life. Knowing when to begin this next phase can be a challenge, but God usually sends a messenger. It was around this time that I had an extraordinary experience. I just finished speaking at a business conference in Palm Beach, Florida, And as I walked from the podium, I was approached by a man who wanted to speak to me. He was with a friend of mine, so I suggested we go backstage and sit down. "When was the last time you felt amazing?" the stranger asked me as soon as I sat down. "What do you mean?" I asked. The question had unsettled me. It was as if he knew something about me that I was trying really hard not to let anyone see in public. He went on to say, "Well, my favorite thing about your books is the questions you ask. And that's my favorite question from all of your books." I smiled and took a deep breath and relaxed a little. He wasn't actually asking me when I last felt amazing, though my mind immediately started to process the question, and it had been a while. The man continued. He said, "Every day I email all my clients a question from one of your books. They love them. Whenever I speak to a client, we always end up talking about your questions more than we do about business. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you." He stood up, shook my hand, and disappeared. That encounter was like a jolt straight from the heavens. It was arresting. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest to resuscitate me. It snapped me out of the cocktail of lethargy and self-pity and sadness I was stuck in. So let me ask you, when was the last time you felt truly amazing? For me, it had been a while. Sure, there had been moments here and there, but I was searching for the last sustained period of amazing, and it was concerning how far back I had to reach to find it. There were reasons and excuses, of course, but I knew deep down it was time to do something about it. There is a time for sowing and a time for reaping, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. It was time to dance again. It was time to dance with life again. The following weeks were back and forth between hope and doubt. After the most difficult seasons in our lives, our hearts naturally wonder if we will ever feel amazing ever again. Is it even possible? We think to ourselves. It is possible, but our wounded hearts are understandably tentative. So let me ask you again, what would have to happen for you to feel amazing? It's time to flourish. You can't do it alone. You need an environment that is uniquely supportive. That includes people, food, sleep, exercise, prayer, reflection, feeding your mind with healthy ideas, and ridding your environment of toxicity. And don't forget, everyone who really cares about you wants you to flourish.